Okay, it looks like we have enough seats for everybody now. We had absolutely no idea what to expect. We knew there was going to be 30 because, you know, that's what they did. But we had no idea, anyways. So my name's Michael. I am, the oldest son of Bernie and Betty, and I'm going to attempt to MC and maybe talk a little bit. And if I lose it, you guys will help me out, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so here we go. On Friday, November 23rd, at the age of 84, my father, Bernie Shukster, peacefully passed. We are gathered here today to share our memories of him. My family and I would like to thank all of you who were able to make it today. Over the past couple of days, we've received lots of phone calls and emails and stuff, and your support is truly, truly appreciated. It's made a difference. My dad was dealing with the challenges of cancer and Alzheimer's for a few years now. While it gave him many frustrations, he was able to find time for joy in every day. I've just recently retired and had lots of opportunities to spend that time with him. While he gracefully accepted our help, it was his sincere wish not to become a burden on anyone. And on Wednesday, we discovered he had an infection that his body just could not recover from. Following his wishes, we allowed it to take its course, and without any pain or suffering, he quietly left us. My mother wanted this to be a memory sharing. Many people are not comfortable with sharing in public. That's okay. We'll have opportunities to do that later in a more informal setting at the Shiva. I have a few people who have asked to say something today. If there's someone who doesn't want to say something and hasn't mentioned it to me, don't fret. I'll give you a moment. I'll get you to put up your hand or something. Old teacher in me. To start things off, to start the sharing, I would like to invite my cousin Marty up. And yes, he's first because you were very special to my father.
Let me plug this back in, Marty.
And you're too tall. I'm the shorter cousin. There we go.
Does that work?
That's great. Wow. So it certainly is a good turnout. In Jewish tradition, it's common to have a eulogy at a funeral, and it makes it even more special when it's sort of a communal eulogy. It's kind of eulogy times whatever factor you want. So I'm not the oldest male nephew, but I'm the second oldest male nephew, so I have a certain status. My sister Brenda is the oldest of all the nephews and nieces, so she has an exalted status. So I'm going to start with her first, and it's appropriate to start with her because, as all of you, or most of you know, Bernie's from Winnipeg, born and bred in Winnipeg. So this story, which I'm going to read and hopefully get through, is coming all the way from Winnipeg. Brenda sent this, so I'm going to read it on her behalf. She would do a much better job, but can you hear me all in the back? Because I'm not eating the mic, because people say you're supposed to. Okay, she says, my name is Brenda Yacker. Well, it's obviously, that's Brenda. My name is Brenda Yacker, and I'm the daughter of Norma and Leonard Shukster. My father was the oldest of the 6 Shukster brothers. Bernie was the youngest and was closer in age to me than he was to my father. He was our uncle, but basically he was just a kid, so he was more of a big brother than an uncle. During the post-war building boom, my parents bought a new house in the mushrooming suburb of West Kelowna. My father built something called our rec room. This was very, very special at the time, believe me. The rec room became my Uncle Bernie's home away from home, as he and our future Aunt Betty and their friends regularly congregated there for parties that became legendary. In fact, years later, when I became a teacher, I was asked by a grandmother dropping off her grandkids at school, weren't you a Shukster? Didn't you live on Smithfield? My husband and I remember some great parties there. Another time, a principal I worked for asked, did you grow up on Smithfield? Was there a rec room? There was a party. I remember going in, but have no recollection of coming out. Although, truth be told, she was referring to one of Uncle Bernie, wasn't referring to one of Uncle Bernie's parties, but one of our Uncle Albert's. Same rec room, different uncle. But you get the picture. My parents got to go out. My uncles got the use of a rec room. Uncle Bernie's parties were fascinating to me. They featured all sorts of exotic accoutrements. A plastic ice cube with a fly embedded in it. Something called a whoopee cushion. Now that's just for the older people here, I'm sure. And a poster on the wall that said, because tonight is poultry night, every woman present will get a free goose. I had no idea what that meant. However, I did have an aha moment in a few decades later. Typically, my little brother, Marty, would at some point in the evening wake up and start to cry. Cries that were never answered. So finally, I'd have to go down into the dark and smoky rec room, find my Uncle Bernie among the various couples who had now settled into individual couches, easy chairs, and corners, or were locked together dancing or swaying to the music. Uncle Bernie would eventually be found, and my little brother would be settled, although not without Uncle Bernie phoning my mother, whose soothing voice was required to get Marty to go quietly back to bed. As the years passed, the family grew, and the rec room became the place for the brothers to gather whenever they all returned to Winnipeg with their wives and children. But that's a whole other book of stories. Today I want to send my love to Aunt Betty and her wonderful family of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. From Phil and I and our children and grandchildren as we say goodbye to someone who is truly a treasure. So that's from Winnipeg. Okay. So I'm Marty from the you recognize me from the rec room story. So I was crying then, and I'm crying a bit now. What follows is some Jewish content for the afternoon. I always called Bernie by his Yiddish name, Banish. How many of you knew that his Yiddish name was Banish? Probably not many. And he always called me by my Yiddish name, Moish. Actually, Bernie's full Yiddish name was Banish Godel, which means Big Banish. We never knew who the little Banish was. Now that remains a sort of family mystery. I always felt that Bernie really enjoyed that little connection with his Jewish roots. It was a warm, fuzzy feeling of being back in Winnipeg with his parents and brothers and warm, extended family. But although he was born Jewish, Bernie didn't put much stock in ancient religious tradition. He was a thoroughly modern man, an electrical engineer. Who could be more modern than that? But I'm here today to set the record straight on this. Bernie was much more religious than he ever knew. So pay attention, because you're going to be quizzed on this later. According to Jewish tradition, there are 613 commandments in the Bible. 385 are negative commandments, those are the thou shalt nots, and 248 are positive commandments. The first commandment in the Bible is found in Genesis, where God makes a commandment to Adam and Eve, and he says, "Pru urvu umilu et haaretz," which in English is "be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." So if you look around this afternoon, with all the Shuksters in the room, you can clearly see how wonderfully successful Bernie and Betty were in meeting this goal of this commandment, and which will continue to be fulfilled for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty. I'm not going to move this up because my next speaker may be the same height. Yes? No. One of my other big cousins from around the corner as we grew up, Gary Shukster, would like to speak now.
Not for you. That was my little cousin Marty, or Michael rather. Okay. Bernie Shukster, or Uncle Bernie as I have known him, was always such a jolly, happy guy. My earliest memory of him was when I was a child, and this laughing, huge man grabbed me and stuck me on the ceiling. Well, those of you that know my father, he was a very small guy, and he would never attempt something like that. So I was just amazed at this. This was the most fantastic thing that has ever happened to me at that point. I have nothing but fond memories of Uncle Bernie. I have a special affinity for Bernie, actually, in that, as my dad's youngest brother, when Dad got flustered about something, he would call me Bernie. Bernie, Gary, would you go get that thing over there? And so, over the years, I've been trained to answer to either name, Bernie or Gary. This was also reinforced lately, actually, during sailboat racing with Bill Porter. Bill Porter was working with Bernie at the Hydro. And in pressure situations in a race, Bill would also revert to calling me Bernie. Bernie, pulling the sheet line. No problem, I would answer to either name. Bernie was a wonderful uncle, and we will clearly miss him. I'll keep this short, that's it.
Getting applause. This is interesting. Okay, Gary talked about being fruitful and multiply. This is the time I'm going to challenge all my nieces and nephews. They are, some of them want to talk, some of them can't talk. They've obviously been affected a great deal by their Zadie, but they're going to come and do their best. So I've asked them all to just share one of their lovely memories of their Zadie. So if they can come up now, guys, come on down. Willow, can I give you the mic first, okay? No.
No, I'm gonna take it. She's okay.
Good.
Yeah, you wanna say hi? Hi. Okay, so I'm the oldest grandchild, and just so that you know, I'm 36, to give you a timeline. Yeah. You're coming up. Okay, so I was just gonna share that one thing that I really liked about him was that he had a great love of dancing. And so when I heard that he died, we had like a dance party. We tried to think of what music he liked, and yeah, sort of do that. And I'm gonna share one more memory because I have a child, and it's for her. He came to Korea. They came to Korea for after Gil was born, and I guess it was maybe when he started having a bit of memory trouble, and I guess he wasn't the kind of guy that held children, but he did. He just picked her right up, and it was like really surprising for everybody. So, so that was really special. All right, here you go. Oh, and my name is Venus. Yeah, Venus? This is Danielle. And my name is Samara. I don't really have a lot to say, but I'll let Willow speak. Do you want me to read what you wrote? So, I'm gonna read what I wrote, and that way hopefully I get through to the end. There's no promises. I had the opportunity to live with my puppy and Zadie, which was really special. Not everybody gets the chance to get to know their grandparents so intimately. And when I talk to my friends and you know, what I'm grateful for in my life, it's that time together. And, you know, Zadie and I would just be passing by to say goodnight and sit down, and 4 hours later, I'm way past my bedtime. And we would get into long conversations about life and love and lessons. We shared lots of stories about his childhood growing up and fond memories of raising his children and fond memories of all of us here. I remember in particular over a box of cookies standing in the kitchen of one conversation that has in the front of my mind ever since. And this is going back probably 5 or 6 years. I was asking him about, his life and career, and I was kind of looking for some advice, and I asked him what he was proud of. He said he couldn't give a rat's ass about any of it. What he was proud of in his life was my puppy. You are his greatest accomplishment. The only one he cared about, at least. That's what he told me. He said, the only thing that matters in life is family. Everything was for his kids and for his grandkids. He loves all of you too, but this was what he lived for, was all of us. So that gave me a lot of direction, as you know, in supporting all of you, myself. Dylan was sharing on the way here that, every time he walked in the room, it was the biggest smile from Zadie. He just jumped to his feet, and that smile in that photo, that was him every time he saw each of us. It's just his joy. And that's the smile that I'm gonna see every single day. I didn't say goodbye to him when he passed. I said thank you, because he's in each of us and how all of us have come to be. He's a huge part of who I am. So I don't say goodbye, because he's always going to be right here with me. So to my Zadie, I say thank you. I'm forever grateful for the time we spent together, the guidance that you gave me in life. I don't know how I got so lucky, but it was a damn privilege to be your granddaughter.
Well, I'm Joaquin. I'm the oldest of the grandsons. I just want to say how lucky I feel to be the oldest, because I got spoiled the longest. I don't think anyone have said it as well as Willow, but he was the best. So. Love you, Zadie.
I'm Martha. My favorite memory with my Zadie was just any time I got one-on-one time with him, whether it was just playing cards or playing ping pong or whatever. He never let me win, but any quality time with Zadie was great. I didn't miss it.
I'm Kara, and I don't know what to say.
I'm Dylan. I love my Zadie more than anything, to be honest. I never really got to say goodbye to him. He never really got to say goodbye to me, but when I saw him in the hospital bed and he saw me, he smiled. And that smile said more than any goodbye could.
I'm Lena, and this is Curtis. We're the second youngest of this bunch. I know Zadie's taught us all many things, and one in particular I wanted to share was his way of enjoying a meal. And his trick was just a nice little short nap so that you'd fall asleep after dinner but be awake in time for dessert. And when Bobby wouldn't let him have any more cookies, he'd just look around the table because any of us would easily sneak him some more. But beyond that, Sadie was a comforting and happy presence in the room. He gave us something to aspire to, and I hope that someday we can all sit around our family and sit there with the same pride and smile that he looked on all of us with.
Thanks, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. You know how proud your booby is to see you all standing there. I can see she's glowing right now. Yes. And I think one of you guys said it. You know, you guys were everything to him. I had asked people if they wanted to share some memories that they could do so, and I had a few people that said they did want to come and speak. So first, I'd like Bob Breckles to come up. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You good?
Yeah. Should I tell a joke, Ballantyne? You know, listening to these kids up here brought back some things that I've gone through, and Barbara, my wife, she's not here today because I'm going to be a great grandfather, and she's up there. I wanted to say something about Bernie because Bernie and I go back to 2000 in December. You moved in December or January, February, Betty? January, yeah? And there's a few things that Betty, Bernie, and I, and Barbara have done up there. And one of them that a lot of people don't know, and that was before we had the rec center, we had a party in the back of Betty's and our house. And we celebrated getting rid of the dirt and putting green grass down. And we did this the first year, and I believe, Betty, we got something like 80 people.
Yes, we did.
And the following year, we got something in the area of 140. And then the following year, we got in the area of 180. And Bernie and I would help, and Betty would sit down and do nothing, of course. And what happened was that the bunch of us were sitting around in a little circle with a wall here from the Shuckster's house, and a golf ball came and hit the wall and hit one of the guys in the back of the head. So we stopped all that, and then we moved up to the parking lot, and we got chicken dance to give us a, whatever you call the cover for the food, to protect the food. And then we got over to the rec center. But there's been a lot of things here that's been said by each people that reminds me of things. For instance, ping pong. I think somebody said ping pong. Bernie and I decided to go into the York Seniors games. And one of the games we picked was ping pong. And Bernie drove me up and Bernie drove me home. So on the way home, I said to Bernie, I said, you know, Bernie, I didn't win one game. Not one. And he says, yeah, well, he says, I won one. And I says, who was that against? You. It was just so funny. And talk about parties. As you know, Bernie and Betty would have these parties. We would have our parties. One of the parties my wife reminded me about this morning, and that was, and Sandy just reminded me again because I forgot it, and that is that we had a big party at their house, and then Barbara and I went home. And the next thing we know, the phone rings, and it's Bernie on the other end. And he is saying, will you stop the noise over there? It was only my wife and I. There was no noise at all. Another time we're out between our houses, and as a lot of people in Ballantyne know, you get one hang of a lot of dandelions up there. And I can remember Bernie and I digging up these dandelions between the two houses. We didn't bother with the other side. And I remember Bernie saying to me, "What are we doing this for? Next week they'll be back." Of course he was right, you know. It was so funny. But I can go on and go on with stories with Bernie. But I would like to say, and I don't want to use all your time, I miss him. He was a good friend of mine. I saw him, what, 2 weeks ago, Betty?
Yeah.
And Betty and us, and oh, I should mention the Manhattans, Betty. Betty loved her Manhattans. So I would make the Manhattans, and my wife would like them too. And I can remember drinking with Bernie, and I walked home straight, and Bernie crawled to bed one night. And but what I'd like to say is that I miss him. He's been a good friend. And Bernie, I just want to say this to you: I will meet you up north. Bye-bye, and thank you.
Thanks so much, Bob. I keep hearing this party theme. And why did I always get in trouble when I had a party? Bob Cole would like to say something. Here we go.
We'll change that to Coyle.
Oh, yeah, Coyle. There, I've been corrected now. It's like, I'm the student now. Here, come this side.
My first comments would be addressed to Mr. Breckles, because I moved into Ballantrae in 2001. I was not invited to the 40 or the 80 party or the 120 party. Neither the 40, the 180, or the 120 party. So, Mr. Breckles, you and I will have a discussion at my name is Bob Coyle, but as Bernie loved to call me Bobby, I'll say Bobby Coyle. And this is my brief but memorable commentary on the impression and effect that Bernie Shukster had on the lives of my wife Eleanor and I. For many travelers, the expression B&B, bed and breakfast, means value and comfort. For those of us who live in the golf course community at Ballantrae, B&B means Betty and Bernie. And they both affected our lives in a much more meaningful way. And they really did. They opened our eyes to the world, not only around us, but very far away, and quite honestly, changed and enhanced our lives. Now, to give you an idea, this was written for their 50th anniversary. Called it an invitation to the big one, and this is how we felt about them. 1956 was a year that friends and family did declare the beginning of a lifetime journey starring Betty the Brit and a Canuck named Bernie. 50 years of ebb and flow, where did Father Time go? The memories too many to relate, some ups, some downs, but mostly great. The years at Ballantrae among the best, a buffet of activity pursued with zest. We've traveled much more than we did before, it's just been one revolving door. With many we met along the way, we want to share your special day. To toast when all is said and done, your friendship earned is number one. And that's how we felt about Bernie and Betty. We met, Eleanor and I met Bernie in 2001. I was actually walking on the street, which is quite unusual for Bernie to be as exercised as that. That was shortly after 9/11. And our relationship was fostered by trips to many parts of the world. Bernie was not the front man for these trips, but once he had a camera in hand, he was in charge. Not a man for many words, we finally decided that to enhance memories of our trips, that Bernie's DVDs of our travel would be mainly his camera work and my words. So a new B&B was born, Bernie and Bobby. We spent many an hour in his basement working on these DVDs with total emphasis on his camera shots and a teeny weeny amount of time on my words. Bernie was now the front man in the B&B. And I'm sorry, Bernie, but I get to say the last word at this time and say with sincerity that this is how Ellen and I felt about you. So I called it Bernie Shukster, A Joyful Memory. A seasoned man, a reasoned man, a man who stamped his medal on all whose shadow crossed his path. He gave and asked for little. A loving man, a family man, a man whose star attraction was to win you over, gain your trust, and guarantee satisfaction. A nice man, a gentle man, a man who won his share of admirers, friends, and comrades through his life now witness bear. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Pat Wood also said she would like to say something. Come on up, Pat.
Already for a short person. Bernie Shukster was a sweet person. Not an adjective normally used to describe a man, but it fits my memories of him. Kind, nice, just sweet. I never heard him speak disparagingly of anyone. My husband Bruce and I have had the privilege, and I mean just that, of traveling with Betty and Bernie, making wonderful memories, particularly of one magical night in Madrid. We also enjoyed playing bridge with Bernie. He was a very fine player, a non-judgmental and encouraging partner, very popular with the Ballantrae group. For several years now, probably about 10 plus, together with the Gaudis, we've welcomed the new year, playing cards or just recalling stories around the dinner table. So I will always remember him then. We enjoyed a lunch earlier this month, and as always, Bernie was so pleased to see us, so happy to be in our company, even as his illness took its toll. We will miss his sweet and charming smile.
So I said at the beginning that if there was anybody who did want to say something and hadn't told me, I would give them an opportunity. This is it. Come on down. I've got two on the. We'll save a chair for you. It's okay.
Everybody's extolling Bernie. I got a couple of stories, little anecdotes that I'd like to tell. One of the things is that I don't do funerals, and I don't do shivas, and I don't do bar mitzvahs, and I don't do weddings, and I don't do any of those things. I don't think this falls in this class, but this is a sort of memorial. It's the second one that I've done this year, unfortunately. Once, when Bernie was a member of our poker group, and he won as often as he lost, but you could always tell where he played, especially at our house, because he likes to eat peanuts. There'd be a ring of peanuts around where he was sitting. But that's not the funny one. Here's the one that's the best one. We're in Kilkenny, Ireland, And Bernie and I go for a walk through one of the suburbs, and we're wandering around. And we come back to a store. He says, I want to go get some nuts. So we go into the store, and he gets, I don't look at what he's buying. He buy his own nuts. So he bought nuts. We get home, and he starts eating them. And I think after a while, somebody takes a lick of the package and says, Bernie, it says on the top here, these are for birds only. They're not fit for human consumption. Not fit for human consumption, but Bernie was eating. He didn't know the difference. So when you talk about what Betty feeds him, I don't know. It could have been anything. The other thing is, we played bridge often as partners on the cruises. This is where I first met Betty and Bernie, is on one of their cruises. They took us to Spain. Anyways, we were playing bridge, and Bernie and I were partners. We were playing east and west against north and south. And these other couple were always beating us east and west. I said, Bernie, I said, I don't understand. They were always getting a better score than us. Bernie couldn't believe it, that they could do so well. So we decided to play north-south against them just to see how good they really were. We started playing, and I'm doing this on purpose. This is the other couple, Cool. Pick. Dude. I said, Bernie, they're cheating. They're talking in French. They're talking in French. I understand what they're saying, but this is it. So we fixed them. We answered them in Yiddish. Him and I. One word only. It was enough, and we beat them. Anyways, Bernie had to leave our poker group. He did very gracefully because he knew he couldn't play any very well, and he was losing his touch at it. And it was unfortunate, it was sad, because on the last cruise we were at, we played bridge once together, and Betty, he was out of it. Just one of those days, and that was when he started feeling that I guess he figured things were going the bad way. But I'm going to miss him, very much so. I have all his videos and the discs that he made, and he was a good friend. I only knew him for about 17 or 18 years, but it's enough to get it. Find out what kind of a person he is, and he was a gentleman and a scholar, as they say, and as also, I guess you could perhaps add a judge of fine horses and women. But he's a good guy, and we're going to miss him around.
My story's about golf. I think we'll have covered the gamut by then. But Bernie and I were playing at the Highland Club at Melbourne one day, and we were on the 18th tee. Many of you can visualize the scene. And I was standing off to one side, and Bernie got up to hit his drive, and it went off at almost 90 degrees from where Bernie intended it to go, and hit me in the shin. Funnily enough, it never bruised. I guess it was right on the bone, but I certainly learned to stand behind the shooter. I'll miss Bernie too.
Anyone else before my brother and sister and I take over? Michael, come on in. So this is Michael Sved, who I grew up with as a small child and haven't seen in a bit.
It's so true. I wasn't wanting to say anything, but after everybody said something, my sister sort of said to me, somebody should say something on behalf of our family. Yeah. And I think that is important. We go way back. I think, Betty, my mom is your oldest friend. I think they met when they were 5 years old back in England. So I grew up with the Shuksters, and I remember many times having sleepovers at the Shuksters and Michael and so on. And at that time, we lived, I think, at Young and Steeles, and they lived in Thornhill. It was like going to another country. I remember it was like an adventure, you know? And it was so far away, and now look how close it is, you know? And I do remember, some of my memories are more about Betty than they are about Bernie, but both of them. I remember in the mornings, Betty would send us off to the grocery store to buy one-day-old bread. If we came home with fresh bread, we were in trouble. I also remember the dinner table and everybody sitting down as a family and having dinner. And Betty would make sure I would eat my peas. And I still hate peas, Betty. In fact, my mom cooks a Hungarian dish that has peas in it, but she makes it separately for me without peas. So thank you. But I do remember the Shuksters very, very well and how loving their family was. I remember Snowball. Snowball. They had a beautiful dog. I used to love to come to visit, to play with the dog, and Bernie loved that dog too. I remember Bernie's love of basketball. It's amazing. I was talking to my sister on the way here how intertwined the families are, though, and how it goes beyond just the Shuksters. I got to know Peggy at university, and thanks for reminding me of that. Where's Peggy? That story about writing.
Don't tell.
No, I won't tell. I won't tell that story. But I didn't remember you were there. But you know, knowing the extended family, and I also had the memory of my best friend passed some time ago, Howie, and I remember Betty being fond of Howie, and I remember her calling me many times and cursing me for introducing him to her because he was nagger all the time about stuff. But it went more than just their family. It spread beyond. My sister also reminded me of something on the way here about Bernie. The last time we talked, and it was a few years ago. And I don't know how we got on the topic. We got on the topic of Scotch, and Bernie was talking about Scotch. And in the work I do, I get Scotch as gifts often, and I don't drink. So I told Bernie that I would keep the Scotch and give it to him. And I do regret that I never did. So Bernie, I owe you some Scotch. But the only other thing I want to say about Bernie is that you meet people all the time, and some people are very superficial. But when Bernie would come up and talk to me, he would look me straight in the eyes and say, "How you doing?" And he really cared, and he wanted to know. And I really found him very personable in that way. And there was no superficiality. It was like he really cared, and he really wanted to know. So I do love the Shuksters. I love Bernie, and you know, one of those things that we always say in life, we'll get together soon, or we'll see you. I hope that we can meet those commitments, because it has been too long. So thank you.
Anyone? Bueller? No. More? Come on. This is the newest member of our family. This is Carlos Willow's husband.
Hello all. I haven't had the pleasure to meet many of you. I sure hope to do so sometime in the near future. I wasn't planning to say anything. However, being moved, touched, and inspired by your stories, I thought it's best for me to share what there is for me to say. One thing I'll always appreciate about Bernie, my family immigrated from Nicaragua about 30 years ago. And because of that, my parents started fresh here. And so, up until this day, I actually never understood what it means to have a family, or what the dynamic is between grandparents and their grandchild, aunts and uncles. And so, because I never understood that, I would get very bothered and very triggered at how well-knit your family is. And I guess the biggest lesson is what it means to have a family. So, Bernie, thank you so much for welcoming me into your family. And I love you all.
Okay. Oh, I got another one in the back. I feel like let's make a deal. Come on down. You are the next contestant.
Which curtain do I open?
Like many others, I wasn't going to say anything. My name's Tom Gove, and believe it or not, I may be one of the people in the room that know Bernie as longer than most. There's 3 of us here, and we represent 3/4 of a bridge foursome who have been playing for, and we can't remember, but it's probably 35, 40 years. So it's been a long time. And he's ruthless. I mean, all these nice things you're saying about him, he was, you know, you play bridge with him, and he's out there to win all the time. And I won't belabor it, but we really miss him because there's only 3 of us left. And Bernie was sort of one of the cornerstones of our bridge group, and it was a pleasure every week to get together and play bridge with Bernie, and we used to rotate houses. I'll make one little comment. And when we had at our house, we had a little dog and a little white Spitz, or American Eskimo. And I couldn't figure out why, when I set up the bridge table downstairs in the rec room, the dog would come and go and wait there, and then sit under the chair where Ron Powell would sit. Ron is one of the members. I found out much later that Ron was feeding potato chips to the dog, and therefore he knew it was going to be him there. Never barked, never did make any fuss. But then after bridge was over, I found the dog would come back, and he'd go under Bernie's chair and clean up. We do miss him. We miss him for a lot of reasons, and one of which was what a lot of you talked about. He was just a fine gentleman. Thank you.
Spilling of crumbs being legendary. Do I have any more takers? Okay, I'm going to get my brother and sister to come up and join me. I have prepared way too much, but believe it or not, it's half of what I started with. Come on up. My brother's not going to say anything. He's going to hold me. Here, come on. You want to say something?
Hi, I'm Abby, and I wrote stuff out, and it got edited, and I wrote other stuff out, and I forgot it. And I woke up this morning, and I wrote more stuff, and it was really good. And it's, I mean, what do you say about your dad, right? It's not a good place to be. It's easier to give birth to 6 kids than say goodbye to your dad. And I'm so glad everybody came, and I'm so glad for everything that's been said. You took pretty much what I was going to say, because he really was someone who had a great character, someone I always looked up to, not just because I'm short, but because he really worked on his character. Not that he had to, but he chose to, and he chose to introduce that to me when I was little. He introduced me to Socrates, and letting me know that kids were just as bad in 400 AD, or yeah, whatever year it was. I still have that clip he gave me.
Sure.
And Rudyard Kipling, that poem If, was really special, and I tried so hard to live up to that, and I don't think I did, but I keep trying. And he just loved me, you know, like no matter what I did, I really tested his love, and he never let me down.
And I think that's pretty amazing to, you know, what he put up with. He just one of a kind. And it's really cool to see that he touched so many people. And, you know, he loved everybody. And I know he's well loved. And I guess something that was shared with me today, I was asked about, you know, a charity. And I thought about it, and I thought, my dad, if he saw somebody on the street and they asked for money, he would stop and talk to them. And he would want to know what their story is. And he really wanted to help them. And I know he's given advice to lots of people. My cousin Shelley sent me a message this morning that when she had kids and her husband Barry would ask my dad for advice, my dad would take Barry and say, Barry, children lie. So whenever Shelley was having a problem, Barry would look at her and say, Shelley, children lie. He was, yeah, my cousin Ivan sent a message saying he's still not gonna eat cookies for breakfast. Yeah. I'm gonna miss him. And he's gonna be with us, because he's in all of us.
Stay with me, I need you. Okay, I'm gonna go through this as best I can, because over the last few days I've thought a great deal about our dad, and you guys all knew him. He was easy to love, probably because he had so much love to give. And I get to talk to you now about him as a father. And there'll be some breaks here. Fathers are supposed to guide their children, provide structure and support throughout their lives, demonstrate by example how to make a difference in the world. My dad did this from the time I was born until this week. And as I started writing this, I realized, I looked back at my experiences with him, and I realized he's going to keep doing this, even though he's not with us physically. Some of you know me for a while. I was not an easy child. Yes. The word Michigana came out of my dad's mouth a lot. Today we use the word spirited child. When I got to be too much, I was sent to my room to think about it. This was before timeouts were known by the regular people. It wasn't just to calm me down. It was to calm him down. He never wanted to deal with me out of anger. And I pushed him a little. After we both had time to think, he would come to my room and ask me what I thought about and help me understand how things escalated and how I could better solve my problems. I had the opportunity to hone these problem-solving skills many times. I actually got to the point where when I screwed something up, I'd look forward to going to my room so I could think about it and have that conversation later with my father. He was wise. Let me tell you how wise he was. He loved to sleep in on weekends. Yeah, we made a lot of noise in the morning. And we all loved cookies. Cookies got eaten very quickly when my mother made them, and we would always argue about who ate the most cookies. At some point we decided a good idea would be for each of us to have our own cookie tin. And when she baked a batch, we'd get equal amount, and then we would know who the real cookie monster was. Well, my brother and I, we couldn't lose at this competition. No. So every morning on the weekends, when my parents were quietly sleeping in bed, we quietly sneaked into the cookie tin of my father, snuck the cookies, quietly ate them while they slept. He never noticed. He never said anything, and we thought, what a coup. Yeah, later he told me he knew we were sneaking them, but kept us quiet and he got to sleep in. That's wisdom. He taught me competition. That was a great way to reach your potential. I love the ping pong stories. I'm going to share one. He also taught me that winning is a matter of perspective. Well, we played ping pong a lot when I was growing up. He wouldn't let me win. At first, he would spot me 15 points and easily beat me to 21, for those of you who play ping pong. Eventually, I got to be able to beat him at 15. He dropped it to 10, then 5, and eventually 0. One day, I finally beat him. I was so excited. I looked at him and I realized that he was probably more excited than I was, and it was kind of odd to me. But I realized then that he wasn't really trying to beat me all those years. He was just trying to push me to do my best. And when I finally beat him, we both won. He loved to have fun. You saw some of these pictures. I love that one. He definitely liked to find his inner child. One of the last things that he did this week was he was playing with Aaron with his little figurines and being just a little kid making silly noises. He tried to eat one of the figurines, but that's another story. And it reminded me of a trip we went on to California. I have actually props for this. So if you've ever done this before, I have no idea if it's going to work because I haven't done this for a while. You got it? Oh yeah, I'm doing this. So me and my brother thought this was a fun game, so we would do this to each other. My father, seeing this, of course, decided that it was appropriate for him to join in, and he got his straw out, and he fired it at us, missed both of us, and hit this other lady straight in the face. Yeah, she looked right at him. Boys will be boys. Yes. As I got older, he developed this superpower for teaching lessons without actually teaching lessons. I remember one specific one where he came to see me play a basketball game in high school. I fouled out, and I didn't handle it very well. I stomped around on the court and blah, 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 walked off, etc. After the game, I was expecting a lecture from him about proper sportsmanship and how you should handle these things, but he never said anything to me about it. I kept thinking about it. Why is he not telling me something about it? What's going on? I started to try and see it from his perspective. Why could he not say something? And I started to see that, maybe how bad I actually looked from his perspective. And it helped me start to think about what other people think about me and what I should do to deal with my anger better. Eventually, maybe a year later, I asked him, Dad, I told him, Dad, that was a very powerful lesson that you taught me by not saying anything and making me think it through. And he said, really? I don't remember that game. As I moved into fatherhood and had my own challenges of parenting, as everyone who's a parent knows, he became the perfect sounding board. As Glenn said to me last night, he was such a great listener. It allowed him to put things in perspective for us. Whenever I would talk about my challenges in parenting, etc., he'd listen to the details and then said something like, hey, you weren't the perfect child, and you turned out okay. Although some of you may argue with that. He said there's a bigger picture. He would point out all the great things about my kids and remind me that it's all part of growing up. And he had a great way of seeing that big picture. He loved to laugh. When he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he took it in stride. We all talked about how do we handle this, and he said we're going to laugh about it. It wasn't that he was going to not fight it, but he made sure that he would try to find the humor in it. It became more challenging. As it became more challenging for him, we actually had a lot of fun with me trying to complete his sentences for him. And when I'd finally get it, he'd go, yes! Although his grandchildren were, in fact, his greatest joy, my mom was his rock. Although they have very different views on the world, and he'd often say to me, your mother. He knew that she completed him. And if he made some little comment or about something that she did that bothered him, he made sure to remind me that it was insignificant in relation to her amazing qualities. This was true love. So how do I sum this up? Well, I used to teach. And I used to do a lesson with my students about how to be successful in life. I stole it from Charles Schulz. We did 2 quizzes. In the first quiz, I asked them to name the 5 wealthiest people in the world. The last 5 Academy Award winners, the last 5 Stanley Cup MVPs, 5 people who'd won a Nobel Prize, etc. These are no second-rate achievers. They're the best in the world. And the kids did not do a very good job of getting the answers. Second quiz I gave them, I asked them to name 5 people who have helped them on their journey through their life. 5 people who they would like to spend time with. People who made them feel special or appreciated. People who have inspired them. Guess what? They all aced that quiz. The lesson is that the people that make a difference in your life are not the ones with the best credentials. They're the ones that care. And that was my dad. He loved you all. And even though he might not have said it to you directly, you all knew. And when you remember your times with him, I'm sure you will feel as I do. I was so lucky that he was part of my life. Thank you all. Sorry, I gotta put on my MC hat now. This is my father's hat. Does it look good on me? I might pick it up. Hey. So that concludes our memory sharing for today. We would like about an hour and a half. What time is it now? Who knows?
Quarter after 3.
Quarter after 3. So 4:30? 4:35. So we're going to have a shiva back at my parents' place at 33 Weldrick. If you need directions, we have them somewhere. You might want to grab some to eat. We do have food there, but it's not a ton, right? But there's snacks stuff. So if you want to grab something on your way, give us about an hour and a half to set up and we can talk more informally. I want to thank all of you for coming here. It has meant so much to me to see you guys, and I know it meant so much to my mom and everybody else here. So thank you very much.